Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your host, Gordo Games, and welcome back to their full card breakdown. This time for UFC Sao Paulo. We are down in Brazil for a 13 or 12 and a half fight card. A lot of fights to break down, and I'm excited to do so following our week off. Sometimes those weeks off are good, right? You kick your feet up, you get to relax, and you get to fall in love with the sport all over again. You miss it so much in the weekend, you want it back, and I am really looking forward to this card because of that. And I do think we do have ourselves a very good set of fights that I'm excited to break down with a betting and a drafting perspective as always. If you can't tell, the time of filming this, it is Halloween. So I dressed up as the scariest thing I could, a UFC judge, a referee. I'm blind. Grasso and Valentino was a draw. However, that Halloween holiday is phenomenal for this main event. Almeida, Derek Lewis. I'm excited to break it down. 13 fights on tap. Should be all timestamped down below for your viewing pleasure. As always, we'll cover everything from both a betting and a drafting perspective, along with the whatever bets I have locked in, Reignmakers wise, everything I can finish at the end of the video. And without wasting any more time, guys, hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel. Let's do this. We get the fight night started with the 8-1 Cowboy Fernandes versus the 16-7 Mark Diakiese in what is a pretty fun but pretty binary matchup. And before we break these down, let's please say we are in Brazil. We do have a lot of Brazilian fighters, potential setup matches. One where we do have Mark Diakiese making the trip across the pond. And although he is still a slight favorite, was a much larger favorite, a lot of money has come in on the Brazilian fighter here. And I get that. You watch tape on Fernandes, he's a fun, dynamic striker. I think he has a lot of these good tools to go out there and win some fights at 155. I think he has a decent game off his back. I think he has some really good power on his feet, but the flaws were evident. I don't think he's perfect. And although he is working with a decent camp, there are some glaring holes that lead you towards believing that Mark Diakiese should be the favorite here, right? He can be taken down. His cardio did not look good. His minute winning capability didn't necessarily seem to blow me away either. And on the flip side of things, we do have a very experienced UFC vet here in Mark Diakiese, who is not only at one point a primary striker, but someone who has incorporated that takedown upside in his game and has the cardio to go out there and give a bet lesson to Fernandes. And I think that when we're looking at picking a winner in this matchup, although the striking power and the crowd behind Fernandes has the ability to go out there and maybe knock out Diakiese, when we're keeping it possibilities the way this fight goes, Diakiese should have the better cardio. He has the better level of experience and vet savviness, as well as having the better ability to take this fight to the matchup, as well as keeping it competitive in the feet in his own right. So yeah, Fernandes can go out there and surprise people, get an early finish, get the crowd going, but I do think that at the end of the day, the guy with more paths of victory is going to be Diakiese. He has been pretty durable, and although being submitted in a few spots here, has good durability in the feet, has the striking chops to contend with such a dynamic striker here in Fernandes, and has more paths to getting it down on the mat as well. I do think this is Diakiese's fight to lose. It would be my pick to win this first fight of the night. DraftKings-wise, I think both these guys are live, right? We've seen Fernandes not only gas out, but be taken down before, and D1 Diakiese scored 112 against Borralho, 112 against Hadzovic. That takedown upside is huge, and that is definitely something you can look towards at 8.6K. But I kind of like the underdog here more, right? The line has closed up. You're getting some good line value here at 7.6K, and although I am not picking Fernandes to win, his path to victory is finding the chin of Diakiese, maybe an opportunistic submission, winning probably by finish here, because I don't think he has the same amount of cardio or minute winning ability as Diakiese here in the long run. So that finish upside for Fernandes at 7.6 is very pretty, something I'm going to go look towards and maybe potentially back from that regard. But at the end of the day, the pick is Diakiese. I do think he gets it done by decision with more paths of doing so. Should be a fun fight to get the night started. And we keep it moving with the 10-3 Montserrat Ruiz versus the 9-0 Eduardo Moura. And if you guys follow me on Twitter, first of all, if you don't, make sure you do. I already have a bet on this one. I love Eduardo Moura this weekend. And of course, I have her parlay up with last week. She is a massive favorite, so no hot takes here. But I am a fan of this Moura girl. The big red flag with her is there wasn't that much tape. We weren't really able to see full defined proof, but she went out there in Contender Series and looked like a beast. And we started to understand and put the pieces together of who the girl is. She is a friend of and the female version of Almeida. I mean, Almeida was asking Dana White to get her in the card, and she went out there Dana White Contender Series and fought at Almeida type style, right? Took her down, used her physicality, used her very good, solid BJJ, and looked great on Dana White Contender Series. Now, there are still some holes in her game that I expect someone to go out there and exploit down the road, but she is getting a gift. She is getting almost a handcrafted matchup for her first fight in the UFC here against Montserrat Ruiz. And of course, Montserrat Ruiz probably kicked my ass, put my head in a head and arm throw and tell me that he's going to follow me home. But when it comes to fighting UFC level, I don't think she's the best fighter, right? I think she is a very small stature, not very good striking defense or offense on the feet aside from a good 1-2. And although she has a decent fundamental offensive wrestling game, can be taken down, can be controlled, can be passed on bottom, there are a lot of flaws in Ruiz's game. And I think when we're comparing this matchup, you have the A side here in Moura, the hometown girl who is looking to continue her highlight reel, friend of the guy who's headlining the card, and someone Ruiz who is finishing her last two fights, who has the shortest, or one of the shortest reaches at the weight class, and who has just dominated a couple months ago on the mat the same way that Moura is going to like to do it here. Moura's going to have the ability to not only use her much larger frame and physicality here, but her ground game. Take down Ruiz. Pass her the same way Amarine did, and the difference was Amarine had to wait to round 3 to get that finish because she was mostly going for those submissions, and Ruiz can able to fight through them, but Moura's a ground and pound girl. She does have some subs in her back pocket, but she's a lot better ground and pound. She will probably pound in Ruiz's face, and I do think she has the ability to get a very, very early finish. She is one of my favorite parlay pieces on the card, and I'll probably be looking to play her inside the distance as well. She's a good camp, all the skills here, size, physicality. I think she is the A side of this matchup. I do think she gets a finish at a high clip, and for that reason, is someone I'm looking towards at 9.4K. Yes, a ton of studs on this card, so how do you get to her? I'm going to try to find a way because I do think she's able to take down Ruiz and dominate her on the mat, as well as being the more offensive striker as well on the feet. So the paths are there for her. I do think she wins with a high clip. Very heavy price tag, but if you're looking for parlay pieces, I do think she wins at a high clip. Excited to see what she can do in the UFC. Sticking at 115 now. A lot closer matchup though. 15 and 13, Angela Hill. 8 and 2, Denise Gomes. And Gomes is, you know what, taking me for a ride. She's taking a bit of my money. All power to her. I think she's got incredible power, and that's fun to see at this 115 weight class. You don't see it too often, but she's got good finishing instinct, good power, and she's on a bit of a tear here. And she's facing the 115 gatekeeper here in Angela Hill, the girl who has headline main events, who has fought everybody. And although she has a 500 record, almost, probably the best fighter with a close to 500 record. She's extremely well-rounded and has that vet savvy in her back pocket to use, and she's been using that to beat these lower-level fighters. When she's not facing the Mackenzie Derns or Amanda Lamoses of the world, she's going out there and she's beating the Ashley Yoder, she's beating the Ducote, she's beating the Lupi Godinez, who I'm very high on, using her ability not only to wrestle when she has to, but great length on the feet, great minute-winning ability. And although she does fight close, has this vet savvy in her back pocket to be able to win minutes, win the exchanges, and beat this low-level competition. She's getting a step down here in Gomes, who is, in return, getting a step up here, but let's see how Gomes fares, because Gomes has been on an absolute tear. Underdog in both of her last matchups and 2 finishes, right? First round, 10 seconds almost. Like, it was an incredibly quick knockout against Yorgi, and then she dominated Bruno Brazil as well. And although she looked well with those, she looked really good with those finishes, ton of power, I picked against her both times. That really kind of shows you who she is. She's someone with a ton of power. She's got that dog in her, so she's going to keep on going the whole time. You can't discredit that. But aside from that physicality and power, lacks volume, lacks minute-winning ability, has no defense in her regard, can be taken down and stuck on bottom. So there are these holes in her game that I think that she just isn't completely well-rounded to the point to where I can see her beating Angela Hill at a high clip or being favored over someone like Angela Hill. And let's put it that way. And that's kind of really going towards where my pick is in this one. I am picking Angela Hill in this matchup, and slightly just because I think, how can we make Gomes a favorite when I don't see her winning the minutes at a high clip here enough to make her the favorite? Sure, she could spark Angela Hill, who was dropping Mackenzie Dern a few times, but Angela Hill, who is extremely durable, who has fought much better level of competition, how can we make her the underdog when she will have more opportunities to win the judges' scorecards, in my opinion? Now, yes, if you think Gomes can knock her out, or if you think Gomes can keep up the volume, keep up the pace enough to get a hometown favorite judges' scorecard, we know Hill has been screwed over before, I think she's a pick to win, but not enough to be minus 140, not enough to be a big favorite in this matchup, where I do think Hill should probably be the more tested, more proven fighter who should be the favorite here. So for that reason, I did take a dog shot on Angela Hill. I do think she should be a slight favorite here, just with that expertise and ability to control range and win minutes in her back pocket, but should be very fun. DraftKings-wise, there's no question that Gomes is the better option, though. Although I don't think she wins this fight north of 40% of the time. When she does win, a lot of the time it's going to come with either Hill being done and getting that knockout over Hill or pretty early on, scoring well, because she scored 132 and 132 in her last 2 fights, or having the volume, pace, and pressure to keep up with someone like Angela Hill and score pretty well, because if you're beating Angela Hill, you're usually putting up a very, very good score in the process. So I think Gomes has some DraftKings viability, but moneyline wise, I am siding with the dog here in Hill. Very, very interesting matchup though. Let's see how Gomes really takes on this test of Angela Hill here. And we continue with the 9-0 Vitor Petrino versus the 15-5 Modestas Bukauskas. Another matchup with polarizing styles. You have the electric, dynamic, huge powerhouse in Vitor Petrino here versus the technical point fighter decision machine here in Modestas Bukauskas, and someone who has had a career resurgence. And you have to give credit for Bukauskas in that regard, right? He's won his last 2, Tyson Pedro, Zach Pauga, underwhelming performances, but wins nonetheless. Things that not a lot of people in the world can say is, I've got wins at the UFC level. He's got 3 of them now. Solid frame with his division, good ability to keep people at range, use that to strike from the outside. And he has a good fundamental skill set that if you're not knocking him out or pressuring him, he can win minutes at range. The problem is he has someone in front of him here in Petrino who is just the opposite. Petrino's a guy who wants to take your head off, will go forward. a ton of power, shown a really good ground game, and he will push that forward pressure, not really allowing Bukauskas to get off him from the outside. So when it comes to breaking down this fight, I am going to pick Vieira Petrino here. I do think he's the more dynamic fighter with more paths to getting it done. However, if Bukauskas were to win this fight, it's probably because Petrino's a little gun shy, and Bukauskas can win striking exchange from the outside. Aside from that path to victory, though, it is Petrino all day. He has the better ground game and has shot and landed a few takedowns in his fights before that. A ton of power on the feet, and we have seen Bukauskas knocked out before. Very good in the clinch exchanges. I think he'll be the stronger fighter of the two here, and he has a good ability to just land that one knockout blow at any point in time, and I do think that will probably come towards this fight here. So having the better ground game, having that finish upside, having the home crowd behind him, I do think he wins this fight a lot at a high clip here, and for that reason, he is also someone I'm looking towards on DraftKings. At 9K, scored 104 against Praknia, 116 against Turkali. I mean, the guy has the ability to go out there, land takedowns, landed 11 over his past two fights, but also has that finish upside that is pretty nice to see, especially at this 205 weight class. So giving Petrino in front of his home crowd, I do think he gets it on a high clip. Bukauskas' path to victory is keeping him on the outside, and I hope that doesn't happen because that won't be as fun of a matchup as a Petrino victory would deliver. So give me Petrino in front of the home crowd, power, more ways to get it done. Should be a fun one. Another one here, 24-7, Ulaizo Zaleski dos Santos versus the 22-2, Renat Fakhretdinov, and kind of a striker versus grappler matchup here. Renat Fakhretdinov is that typical Dagestani wrestler, right? 5.82 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. The guy wants to take you down and hold you there. And in doing so, he's pretty good, man. But he's facing someone who's going to be his largest test to date here in Ulaizo Zaleski dos Santos. An aging fighter in his own right, but one who is very, very dynamic. Incredible striker on the feet, a guy who has shown a decent get-up game as well and good takedown defense. And that 65% takedown defense is going to be put to the test here against someone who's going to look to shoot takedowns very early and very often. Now, the big question and the big really comment people have been seeing this week is that Zaleski dos Santos is now 36, almost 37 years old, and that at this aging point of career where he's not as dynamic, and Abubakar was near Magomedov was able to hold him against the cage, can he stifle that really powerful offensive wrestling ability of Fakhretdinov here? And that's kind of why the line is where it is. I'm going to give this breakdown two-sided things. Gun to my head, yes, the pick is going to be Renat here because I do think he has the ability to go out there, land takedowns, get control time, and win this fight. And I do think that his path to victory occurs more than 50% of the time. But enough to warrant this type of a price tag? I don't think so. Because Fakhretdinov not only has slowed down the stretch, but his striking on the feet leaves a lot to be desired. He can be hit, he can be countered. And getting such a step up as Dos Santos in his home country, who is so explosive on the feet, who can throw from a ton of angles, who has a pretty good get-up game. I think Zaleski dos Santos can win minutes. I think he can win optics. And I think he has that constant power threat to pose problems for Renat, making it so this line seems a bit wide. So for that reason, yes, Fakhretdinov's wrestling takedown threat is worthy to get him that favorite price tag, but more so the minus 150, minus 160 range. I do think Zaleski is a threat here, and I'd be very cautious parlaying Renat Fakhretdinov this weekend. Very close match from the betting perspective. Maybe I'll take a shot on the KO prop from Zaleski, but the pick is Fakhretdinov, and on DraftKings, another fun one to target. Fakhretdinov has scored incredibly throughout his three fights. 130 against Lee, 130 against Battle, 109 against Michailidis. Very, very good scores. That wrestling heavy pace allows him to do that, and I do think that he has a very, very high ceiling on this matchup here to go out there and score well. Flip side of things, if Zaleski wins fights, he scored well when he's getting these finishes. Indecision win against Magomedov, 50, not good, but he was able to find the chin or an opportunistic submission against Fakhretdinov. He scored 107 against Strickland, 102 against Millender, 97 against Benoit Saint-Denis in that infamous no stoppage. He does have a ceiling that is pretty good for someone at 7.1K, especially considering we've already mentioned the Bukauskas who fight from the outside and the Ruizes around him who don't have that same ceiling. So reluctantly, give me Fakhretdinov. I do think his wrestling makes him the warranted favorite here, but I do think Zaleski is live. Should be a fun fight. I mean, keep it moving with the 15-0 Daniel Marcos, 24-4 Victor Hugo. Short notice Dana White Contender Series matchup here for Hugo, and he's taking on a guy here in Marcos who I've had, in my eyes, a decent read on. I picked him in Dana White Contender Series. I picked him in his first matchup, and I picked against him with Grant, and I thought Grant won that fight, but no, well, that's a story for another time, right? Right, referees. Marcos is a phenomenal kickboxer. Great range, decent volume, good durability, good cardio. I think he is a threat on the feet a lot of the time. And the reason I picked Grant was a step up in competition, and Grant was able to have that funky style and bring a pace and even threaten takedowns to throw Marcos off his game. Because when Marcos is at range, the guy's almost unstoppable. He has shown he is a very, very talented technical kickboxer. Hugo's a bit different. He'll fight at any weight class. He's very good on the microphone, and he is more of a predominant wrestler. He'll shoot a takedown very early on. I think he has a phenomenal ground game in this division. He had that knee bar in Contender Series. He had a few heel hooks or leg maneuvers of that regard. But he also throws with fighting intention. Lacks that same technicality that Marcos has, but incredible fight-ending power on the feet, throws from all angles, and when he lands is dangerous. These guys fight at two very different styles, right? Marcos will look to wear you down the stretch, win the minutes, keep it from the outside, be technical, whereas Hugo wants to kill you in the first 5 minutes, right? Will shoot a takedown right away, sell out complete for that submission, and if you are not battle-tested on the ground, Hugo will find it, because Hugo is very, very dangerous. He does fade as the fight goes on, though, and that's kind of really going to be important for this matchup here. For that reason, it kind of leads me to believe, can Hugo get Marcos out of there? Does he have the power? Does he have the submission game? Or really, does Marco lack the submission game to allow Hugo to have success? That's really where it's down to. When it comes down to winning minutes, being the more technical striker, Marcos is deserving to be that favorite, but it's very, very similar to the last one, right? A gun to my head, I'd pick Marcos because I think he's more trustworthy and I've seen more of him, and I can rely on his takedown defense and get-up game to wear out Hugo. But I'm not laying this price tag considering how dangerous Hugo is, considering that ground game he has just been phenomenal, and how Hugo may come out here and win the first round at a very, very high clip. So for that reason, stay away from the moneyline perspective. Probably going to take maybe an under here if I get a good price tag on it, just because I think Hugo will fade to the point where a knockout is live for Marcos, and Hugo is mostly killer to be killed. But DraftKings-wise, this is one I'm very, very interested in. Marcos 8.9, maybe a bit less. If he comes in very, very under-owned, potentially look at him, but more so on this Hugo side. 7.3K, man, this guy is a very, very potent finisher. He has first round finishes. He has first minute win finishes, considering he has those nasty leg locks that'll shoot right off the rip. I think he's a very, very live underdog at 7.3K, especially considering his path to victory is probably an early finish. So for that regard, someone I'm looking to play on DraftKings, and under I'm looking to target here as well. However, the gun to my head pick is Daniel Marcos, but I do think he goes live. We'll just have to see where he is at this point of his career. And then this is where this half fight comes into play, right? Brenner 15-3, Ribovics 12-1. Will this fight happen? Will it not? No idea. And for that reason, let's give it a quick breakdown, right? It was reported that this fight is potentially off, which is very, very heartbreaking because it is a phenomenal matchup. Two very exciting guys to watch, but one where we have the surging Brenner, who has pulled off 2 upsets in a row now and who is fighting at a good camp, has a lot of hype behind him, and who is just a dog. Lacks a lot of technicality, very good on the ground, but will continue to go forward, very durable, has shown good cardio, and a lot of resiliency to go there and win on these fights. Ribovics 12-1, he is fun as well. He also is a bit of a dog, but a lot more volume on the feet. I think he's a lot better technically on the feet as well. Good power. Hasn't been knocked out either, but it hasn't really followed the same level of competition in that regard either. Has a decent fundamental ground game, but was taken down a bunch by Radzhabov. It just made it for a very fun fight. And just to keep the breakdown short, I was going to side with Brenner. I did think he had more resiliency and ability to push the pace, whether it be on the feet or also on the ground with his good ability to keep it from bottom position as well. And being in Brazil in a close fight, I thought he was able to get the judge's nod. But this was one where I was really looking to watch and maybe be the fight of the night from that regard. But if it's not going to occur, then just be left with the thought that the pick was going to be Brenner, just because he has more ways to get it done, whether it be on the ground or the forward pressure. But the technicality of Ribovics and the way he's able to go out there and exchange would make for a very, very fun fight. I do hope this fight stays on. Feel free to ask me any questions on Twitter if it does remain on the card. On to the main card now, we have the 19-4 Ismael Bonfim. We have the 14-3 Vince from Hell Pichel. As I break this down, we get the light in my eyes. We don't care. We continue going with the first Bonfim brother. 19-4, some will say the lesser Bonfim brother. Doesn't matter. He's still a very, very talented Bonfim brother at that, facing on the grizzled vet 14-3 Vince Pichel. Vince Pichel's been fighting one fight a year for the past bit. He lost his last one to Mark Madsen in a very, very close matchup, but he is like I mentioned, a grizzled vet, a dog, a guy who has all that experience behind him, and he's going to need that experience to go out here and contend with a very dangerous prospect here in Ismael Bonfim. The Bonfim brothers, especially this one here, is a very talented technical boxer, right? Good ability to mix it up on the feet, make good reads. He made that great read against Terrence McKinney that allowed him to get that flying knee. He's very dangerous, very, very athletically gifted, very good power, very good minute winning, and very good ability to make good decisions in the cage. He also has a very solid ground game. Shally decided to go there, but this one seems to be more of a primary striker. Vince Pichel has the ability to mix it up on the ground. 7 takedowns in his last 4 fights. I think he does have that ability, but he just want to go out there and go to war. Not the most technically gifted, but has a good ability to make reads, has a good ability to mix in those takedowns, has a good ability to threaten from any position. He is very, very tough, and he will make sure that he throws everything at you to go out there and get that win, and I do think that Bonfim has to come prepared, but I do think I've decided with Bonfim here. I think at this point of his career, when he's going to be the younger fighter with more athleticism, more physicality, I think he's able to use that forward pressure, use that boxing, get him along the cage, and just really dictate the way this fight plays out. He has, I think, that physicality to stuff any takedowns Pichel may throw, and maybe he has the ability to land some himself, but as the fight goes on, has the ability to make reads against an aging fighter in Pichel, rally the home crowd behind him, and continue his resurgence towards the top here. There's no really question about it that they're trying to promote these two brothers on the UFC card, and having them on the same card together makes it for a very, very, very fun opportunity for the UFC. And I do think Bonfim gets this win here to start off the main card here. Better boxer, better optics, and just better physicality here. DraftKings wise though, I have to fade this one. Pichel's been very, very tough, and at 9.5K, it's so tough to get to Bonfim. Even with McKinney, he only scored 100 there, and one where he's able to land a perfect knee. I would not be surprised at all to see a decision win with that striking of Bonfim, and that would not outscore a Moura or a Gabriel Bonfim at this price tag. I do think he's a bit too expensive in there, so for that reason, he's probably one of my higher end fades, but he does have an aging fighter in front of him, so if you think he's able to get the finish, could be a good contrarian play. Pichel could also be a good contrarian play, right? Even when he lost, he put up 38 against Madsen. He could contend, he could go out there and be a lone underdog and maybe push a pace that Bonfim has not seen before. So I think this fight is more so a dog or pass side with Pichel, but one I'm not really having at the top of my priority list. Keep it moving with a 9-2 Rodolfo Vieira versus the 8-2 Armor Petrosyan, and what a fight. What a classic striker versus grappler matchup here. Petrosyan is a phenomenal striker, very good ability to mix reads, but a guy who has such poor takedown defense against a guy who's just a pure grappler here in Rodolfo Vieira, a phenomenal jiu-jitsu guy, has won tournaments before and has utilized that jiu-jitsu in the UFC. But it's really going to come down to really who gets off in their game plan, right? Vieira was rocked on the feet by Cody Brundage. He'd been rocked on the feet before, but as soon as he gets to the mat, incredible grip, incredible strength, incredible ability to go out there and submit people. And considering the historical takedown defense we've seen from Petrosyan, he's going to have his opportunities here. And the big red flag we've seen from Vieira is his cardio and his durability. And if he's not able to get that early finish, he does fade down the stretch. And against Petrosyan, who has such good cardio, that's going to be really an important thing to note here. In my eyes, this is pretty simple. Can Vieira get that first round finish at Petrosyan? People haven't so far. Petrosyan's been a very good ability to get back up to his feet, rally back, and despite the poor takedown defense, contend in those later rounds. And I do think he's able to capitalize off of Vieira's durability concerns as the fight goes on, but he's going to have to survive onslaught early on. A boa constrictor with that strength from top position, it is going to be dangerous. So in my eyes, if you're looking to bet this fight, play Vieira round one and live bet Petrosyan if he survives, because I do think we have a very polarizing matchup from that regard. And for that reason, Vieira is someone I'm looking to target on DraftKings. But when it comes to picking a side, who do I side with here? I kind of want to pick Rodolfo Vieira, considering he's at his hometown. I think he's able to be a bigger threat to Petrosyan than people expected him to. I know Petrosyan survived some good grapplers on the mat, but Borralho was just looking to control him, and Rodriguez didn't have that same game does. Rodolfo Vieira is a true jiu-jitsu guy first, a true threat down there, and I think I'm going to have to slightly pick him, maybe like a 51% Vieira, 49% Petrosyan, but gun to my head, let's go with the jiu-jitsu guy here and the underdog on DraftKings in Rodolfo Vieira. For that reason, though, very, very fun fight to target, and Vieira's someone I'm going to for sure. 90 against Brundage, 106 against Safarov, 106 against Pichel. Honestly, not the best scores, but I do think he needs an early round one, round two finish to go out here and be a winner in this matchup, and in doing so, has good upside. He is someone I'm definitely looking forward to targeting here, and I do think he could get an early finish considering that poor takedown defense of Petrosyan. His win condition scores at least 95 points. So he is definitely someone I'm looking to target as underdog price tag. Petrosyan could be live if this fight goes later, but I mean, he scored 81 against Duncan, 77 against Dobson, and 81 against Rodriguez. Not the highest ceiling with so many high scores on this match, in this card. I don't think he's necessarily someone I'm getting to a high clip, more so preferring the Vieira side. Next up, 14-1 Kyle Borralho, 25-5-1 Abus Magomedov. And guys, I love Kyle Borralho. I've bet on him every single fight so far. He's one of my absolute favorite fighters to watch, and I just think I love how smart this guy is. The fighting nerd is able to go out there and make reads inside the cage, control people on the mat, but also a very, very talented striker in his own right. Now, he's not perfect. He can be hit in the feet. He does keep his chin up very high. He can lose those striking exchanges. He also showed he slowed down a bit to Petrosyan, which could be a concern as the fight goes on. But man, does he have just a wide variety of ways to get it done. Very good on the ground. Good ability to do control from top position and ride out rounds from that regard with some very, very good time takedowns. But also has a very, very good submission game that I think is being a bit underrated here. On the feet, yes, although he can be hit and that defense is definitely concerning, he has a very good ability to mix it up, good karate style. I think he can contend in a lot of these striking exchanges, and I do think he is very, very dangerous. Flip side of things, Abus Magomedov. I mean, the guy who was catapulted to the top, supposed to beat Sean Strickland, and the guy who gave Sean Strickland the UFC title. But a guy who we saw flaws with, right? He is a very, very dynamic, explosive fighter round one. He has a ton of skills, is very well-rounded, good takedowns, very good opportunistic finishes, and a ton of power on the feet, just as Dustin Stolfus. But he showed that he lacks cardio. He can't face adversity, and he took a step up too soon against Sean Strickland, which makes it very, very concerning this matchup, and is kind of why Kyle Borralho is here. You got a guy who is not really the smartest guy, who really cardio dumped, didn't look too good doing so in Magomedov, versus, in my opinion, a very, very smart fighter here in Borralho in his hometown. I think that favors Borralho. You add in the fact that Magomedov, who has had cardio issues, is taking this fight on short notice, even more reason to point to Borralho, and he is the side to be picking here. But on DraftKings, this is a very, very interesting matchup. Borralho scored 107, 75, 80, and 77 in his 4 matchups. Maybe not the best historical scoring from that regard, but when you're facing someone who has gassed before, when you're facing someone who you can have takedown success against, in my opinion, he is definitely one to look forward to. And as much as I'm talking good about Borralho, we have to give flowers towards Magomedov here. When Magomedov wins fight, he scores very, very well. He scored 130 against Stolfus with a quick round finish there. And I do think he has first round finish potential, and his best path to victory here is to finish Borralho round 1, which isn't going to be easy, but if he does do so, he's going to score very, very well in the process, and at 7K is very, very live to make that optimal lineup. So the pick is Borralho. I do think he gets it done at a high clip. However, the win condition for Magomedov is to score very, very well with an early finish, and for that reason, should get some credit towards him on DraftKings. Then we take a step back in the excitement level with a 10-1 Rodrigo Nascimento, 10-5 Dontel Mays. Keep this one short. It is a rematch. Both guys are lower level heavyweights who have their flaws. They fought once before, and Nascimento was able to get the better of them in a round 2 submission victory. It's really hard to tell where both these guys lie, and I do think Mays has a decent camp and some physical attributes, have some success, but isn't the smartest fighter in my opinion, has holes in his ground game, and I do think that there are concerns with him. Here's my problem is, I think this fight's a 50-50 fight. 2 very, very poor fighters. Rodrigo, I think, can be hit at a high clip, was knocked out in his 1 loss. I think he has holes in his game, and facing a guy who's big and strong and has some good power in his hands in Mays, I think Mays can be a threat in the striking exchange as well, and working with a good camp like John Jones has him doing, could have the takedown defense improving to keep this fight on the feet. The problem is that Nascimento does have that X factor, does have that ground game, and that's how he won the last time, so I do think Nascimento is the rightful favorite. However, I don't think it should be to this extent. I do think Mays is more live than the line entails, but not one I want too much of financial involvement in. The pick is going to be slightly towards Nascimento. DraftKings wise though, wow, not pretty, but I think I have to stay away from Nascimento. When he did beat Mays last time, he put up only 99. I guess 99 is not bad, but at 8.8 on a card where we have Petrino, Borralho, Gabriel Bonfim, Eduardo Moura, Almeida, I can't get to him as often, and more so maybe prefer the Mays side. 7.4K. In his last 2 wins, scored 90 and 124, and although I do think his win condition may be predicated towards using his size towards a later finish, maybe a fluke knockout, I do think it's live and could score well in a win. Now, I do prefer a Fernandes or a Victor Hugo, but Mays could be a lower option pivot down low. At the end of the day, not a fight I'm too interested in. Let's move on to this co-main event, which is the 15-0 Gabriel Bonfim, 22-4 and 1 Nicholas Dalby. Now, it's impossible to compare, and you never really want to say this is the better brother, but he may be. Man, this guy looks like he is the goods. Gabriel Bonfim is an absolute killer. Has won each of his last 4 fights by first-round submission, including 3 under the UFC banner, and most recently against Trevin Giles, and just an absolute masterclass. Gabriel Bonfim has a 100% finish rate, 12 by submission, 3 by KO, TKO, and it is that ability to finish fights that makes him so dangerous, right? Incredible striking on the feet, good in and out movement, ability to use his good boxing, very, very offensively minded, and when people go to shoot for takedowns, incredible ground game, incredible ability to lock up that submission, that guillotine, and those transitions have been absolutely fluid so far. He looks like he is the goods. Has some holes defensively, but he is someone the UFC is looking to promote, and they're doing so by putting him in a co-main event slot against an older veteran here in Dalby, who I do think is in for a long day. Dalby himself is 22-4, so a decent record, has a good ability to reel off these wins, but beating him to a lower level comp, right? Salikov, Alves, Silva, losing to Ronson, I'm not forgetting that, losing to Tim Means. He has fought some very, very low level competition. Although he's disposing of them accordingly, it's been the same way every time. It's been using his durability towards winning these later, close, grimy fights, because he does have good cardio, and he does have a good ability to stay in these fights with good durability. So it comes really funny, right? A guy who has never been finished versus a guy who only has finishes, who prevails? And you got to go with Gabriel Bonfim here, right? He's the reason they're in the co-main event. He's who they're trying to promote. And although Dalby's never been finished, he was dropped and submitted by Jesse Ronson, something I do think Bonfim can do, and as well as Dalby has been dropped in previous fights before, although fighters didn't have that same finishing instinct that Bonfim does. I think Bonfim is the better pressure striker, will walk him forward, utilize that incredible boxing and power on the feet, but if Dalby shoots, or if Bonfim decides to take him down himself, those transitions on the mat, that killer instinct, that guillotine, has been nothing but just perfection so far, and I wouldn't be surprised to see another early finish. For that reason, Gabriel Bonfim is my preferred play up top. Him, Moura, and Almeida to be tough to pick between the 3 of them, but 9.3. He scored 97 and 118 his 2 wins so far. It's hard not to love him. Very dynamic, very explosive. I do think it's an early finish here. In the main event, 19-2, Jailton Almeida, 27-11, Derek Lewis. One point on this channel, I had a rule, you never bet against Derek Lewis. And, well, last time, that's why, right? Flying knee, took his pants off, thrusts around the octagon. The Black Beast is a savage. But man, what a matchup, because you have the heavyweight gatekeeper, I guess you could say, most knockouts in history, a very, very dangerous guy, but not the most technically gifted, versus this young, dynamic takedown threat that Almeida has been, and a guy who's been nothing short of perfect. 5 fights in the UFC, 6 if you include Dana White Contender Series, all of them ending by early finish. 6.4 takedowns landed per 15 minutes. He is a true threat of this heavyweight division we have never seen before, and he's gonna get someone here in Lewis who, yes, won his last fight. Before that, lost his last 3 in fights where he's taken down 6 times by Sergey Spivak, was taken down and finished 4 times by Daniel Cormier. And when he has been taken down, has shown the ability to give up in fights. And at this point of his career, I'm stunned why this bout's happening, right? Like, I know you're saying you never should pick against Derek Lewis, but you're giving me a Brazilian fighter in Brazil who has a clear path to victory on the mat, who will shoot for a takedown, take down Derek Lewis and make him quit early on, against a guy in Derek Lewis who is older, doesn't really want to be in there sometimes, will quit in fights, taking this on short notice. It seems like it's Almeida all day, and it's hard not to agree with the line and him being at 9.6K on DraftKings. Now, yes, Almeida has been knocked out before. That is always a possibility. You can never count it out. But like, it's a slim possibility, right? Like no one projected that against really Curtis Blades, and yet it still happened. So I guess it could happen, but Almeida's going to shoot a takedown the first 10 seconds. He's going to look to get full mount, and he's going to look to make Lewis quit. I do think that happens. I'm very confident in Jailton Almeida, which is terrifying because I like to never pick against Derek Lewis. But pick is Almeida, very confident. 9.6K. You kind of got to have this guy, right? Like, he scored 104, 125, 120, 113, 118, averaging 117 per fight in the UFC, facing a guy Derek Lewis who can be taken down, who can be finished, and who is typically a killer to be killed fighter. For that reason, I will have a ton of exposure to Almeida, but under the small chance that Derek Lewis wins this fight, it's going to be my first round finish. And he scored 133 against Rogerio de Lima, 105 against Diakiese, 82 against Blades, and at 6.6K, if Lewis wins this fight, it will be optimal. I don't think it happens too often, but you have to account for the possibility that he just has one-shot knockout power, and anything's possible with him. However, pick is Almeida. I am confident on him. And that's going to do it for us here on the Plays and Fade YouTube channel. Quickly going over my quick picks, we are taking Jailton Almeida, Gabriel Bonfim, Rodrigo Nascimento, Kai Borralho, Rodolfo Vieira, Ismael Bonfim, Elvis Brenner if it happens, Daniel Marcos, Renat Fakhretdinov, Vitor Petrino, Angela Hill, Eduardo Moura, and Mark Diakiese. Betting-wise, the only thing I've locked in so far is a parlay pending on Eduardo Moura and a 1-unit bet on Angela Hill. I'll be looking to play some Moura into the distance. If the line continues to come down on Diakiese, I'll probably take a shot on him. I'll be playing the under in the Marcos and Hugo fight, as well as probably looking to see if I can get a decent line on Bonfim inside the distance and the fight doesn't go in the Borralho Magomedov fight. DraftKings-wise, love that main event. Almeida Lewis is a good one on target. Up top, I love Almeida, Moura, Bonfim. I think Borralho and Fakhretdinov are good pivots. And then GP-wise, Petrino's there for sure. I do think he might go overlooked considering the Gabriel Bonfim's Almeida and more as we do see. That does mean that I'm fading Marcos. I'm fading Ismael Bonfim. I'm going to be under-owned towards Nascimento for sure. Trying my best to get to those high-value names I want up top. In the mid-range, I don't mind Diakiese. I do really like Vieira. And I do think Fernandes is a good underdog. Underdog-wise, I do really like Victor Hugo. I do think Zaleski dos Santos has a decent chance of winning as well. And I do think that at high ceiling-wise, Magomedov, Pichel, and Lewis have very high ceilings, as well as Victor Hugo as well. Reignmakers-wise, highest ceilings without any salaries, Jailton Almeida, Eduardo Moura, Gabriel Bonfim, Vitor Petrino, Vieira, and Borralho. Let's go that way. But that's going to do it for me here on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. Hopefully you guys have been able to pick up what was a pretty fun card, in my opinion. Hopefully I was able to spit some facts for you guys, and we get back to ending 2023 off with a bang. Hit the like button down, subscribe to the channel, show some love. I'll be posting a best bet video sponsored by CoolBet later this week. I'm happy to be back. Wish everyone a happy Halloween or belated Halloween, and enjoy the fights this weekend. Let's make some money, guys.